Welcome and bienvenidos to our new program called Next Generation, highlighting the many creative journeys of next generation leaders. In this series, I will bring you the stories of young leaders in science, literature, medicine, education, and business. Those who have chosen to reach further, travel farther, innovate, and take the risks often necessary to make a difference in their own lives, in those of their families, their communities, and someday in the world. My name is Julieta Garcia. For over 22 years, I had the great privilege of serving as president of the University of Texas at Brownsville. Through that work, I came to know the stories of many of our students that overcame great obstacles to attend college and through great sacrifice of their own and of their families, make it through. Getting to know their stories was always a great inspiration to me. So I thought I'd chase some of them down, interview them, and let you hear in their own words what they're up to now, what their challenges were, and what they hope to accomplish in the future. I promise you will be as inspired, amazed, and humbled by their accomplishments as I have been. Now let's get started. It is my great privilege today to have as a guest in the studios Sergio Contreras. Sergio Contreras, you might know in a couple of different iterations of his career. One was where he worked for AT&T Foundation and as a lobbyist for them for many, many years. And as such, helped sponsor many events for public schools and universities, colleges throughout the valley, throughout San Antonio, Laredo, for many, many years. Actually, I think it was 29 years. But now we know Sergio in a completely different way as president and CEO of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. So welcome, Mr. Contreras, to our studio.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia.
It's good to have you here. So I'm going to ask you some questions about growing up in the Valley and then how you end up, after your adventure with AT&T, to end up back in the Valley and perhaps a little bit as to why you've come back. So tell us, where was it that you grew up in the Valley?
I grew up in Alamo. I'm a product of PSJA school district. And yes, it was in the city of Alamo where I still have my parents and visit every Sunday.
Which is one of the wonderful advantages of having come back home.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure. And so now from Far San Juan, Alamo, you graduated in about 1991, and then you went to Westmar University in Iowa. How in the world do you get to Iowa from Alamo?
I was fortunate that there were some upperclassmen from the PSJ McAllen area that were recruited to a conference in Iowa. And it was a football scholarship that was provided to me and others that allowed us the opportunity to travel to Iowa and participate in sport and passion for football. So I spent the 4 years there. It was not an easy task. It was really cold, where we really enjoyed or learned how to cherish the San Marcos blankets that our parents bought for us because it had the big tiger all over them or a lion. In fact, we ended up taking a couple of others and sold them to some of our colleagues there. But yes,
really?
Yes. But yes, it was a great experience.
So when you say cold, how cold does it get in Iowa?
You know, it would get 5 below.
Oh my!
Yes, and it would snow 2 feet, sometimes 3 feet.
Oh,
it was extremely cold. We were fortunate that it was a small college where we pretty much would walk around campus. We lived on campus and played also football in the snow, which was an experience. I obviously growing up in the Valley, I had limited experience around cold weather other than when we would visit our family members who would migrate, and we migrated a couple of times to the Panhandle and other parts of the country. So I'd experienced a little bit, but not being exposed.
Not 5 below.
Not 5 below, and not trying to keep up with studies and sustain the cold weather.
My goodness. Okay, so you mentioned you had migrated with your family a couple of times. And what did you do when you made that journey?
Our family went through some challenges. It was right about my freshman year to being a senior in high school. My sister, actually, she had leukemia. At the age of about 9 and passed away at about the age of 13. So it was a difficult times for our family. And at the time, there was not much medication available for leukemia as there is now. So it was after the fact that my parents attempted to get back on their feet after my sister passed, and that provided us an opportunity to get away and travel with other folks from our church, and we spent some years in Michigan and did all types of work and took pride in it, and where we would compete against our cousins. He was the best one at picking the pepino and sandia and the cherries, so it was also a learning experience for us, and to a certain extent united the family as well.
I'm sure it was also very difficult, though, to keep up with studies and friends and all of the extracurricular activities.
Yes, that was a challenge. In fact, I do recall that after working out in the fields, and again, this is my junior and senior year, knowing that I wanted to come back and be part of the football team, I would go run or practice on my own. My dad would tell me, "Hey, what do you still have energy? We need to prolong our days and make them longer so that way you can work even longer hours." But it was, I think, something that I've learned over the years of if it's something that you really want, then you just find a way to get it done.
Tough times growing up, anytime you lose someone in the family. And then to overcome those times and to do so with the support of family and friends and church, it makes a big difference and makes you stronger, perhaps, in the long run. So then you did get to play your football, and you did fulfill your dream of going to college. Now, are you the first one in your family to have gone to college?
Yes, I was the first one on both sides of my family, my father and mother. And it was, I recall that it was really my coaches and buddies from high school where I kind of learned that there is, there's studies that can go after I graduated from high school. So I learned from them of literally that there's opportunities for scholarships and financial aid, and that's what helped me realize that I needed to take the next step. And then with the opportunity to play a sport that I loved, it was a no-brainer. Although I will say this, that after my freshman year, I got homesick, and I came back to the Valley.
Is that right?
I came back, and it was the spring semester of my freshman year where I attended the local university, UTPA at the time. However, not being as disciplined as I should have been, I realized that I needed to be in an area where I could have more discipline. So I went back. Thank God they accepted me back.
Absolutely, that was
so that is how I was able to go back to Iowa and earn my it was 2 majors and a minor while I was there.
That's an important moment to talk about for just a second, because many young students, especially young men, we find start out very enthusiastic, and then for whatever reason, homesickness in your case, or discipline, or other reasons, lack maturity of being able to stay with something for a while. But once they get back on track, watch out, because they've learned a lesson that no one else can teach them, and they've learned it the hard way. But it's always good to hear when we hear stories like yours where you've come back to go to school because you understand how important it is for you and what an opportunity it is. So you got very lucky then that UTPA opened its doors to you for a semester, and then to go back to the university, play ball again. Did you continue playing football for Westmar?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you graduated with degrees in what then?
It was in international business, and also a degree in human services recreation. The human services recreation part of it was along the lines at one point where I wanted to be a coach. So I wanted to continue to stay in the sport arena. However, as learning from my parents of them always being, to a certain extent, entrepreneurs and working for their dollars, in that sector, I also earned a passion to work in the business community. So that is why it was a double major and a minor in business administration.
You weren't going to take any chances.
No.
You were going to make it work one way or another.
And and being in Iowa in a small community, you spent a lot of time being able to hit the books.
Can't do much when it's snowing that badly outside. Good for you. Now in Iowa, were there a lot of Latinos in the school?
There was the school. There was it was about 5,000 students, and there were 4 of us, 4 Latinos and 2 Latinas.
Oh my!
And all 4 of us Mills lived together. We were all from the Valley. And actually, I think it was my senior year when we saw about another 10 Latinos come into the system, the school, soccer players. And it was more of a sports-affiliated university.
So it's hard to make that adjustment, too, isn't it? To live in a world where you are in the minority all of a sudden after having grown up quite the opposite in a majority.
Yes, and we learned to appreciate the value of a dollar. Growing up in humble homes, we learned how to mix the ramen noodles with all other type of ingredients. In fact, in our dorms or the apartments we lived in, we'd cook, and we had all types of background friends, ethnicities, and they come and eat at our house because they really enjoyed authentic Mexican food. So that's a great
wonderful
experience.
Well, you made it through. You ended up with your degree and with 2 majors. And what happened from there? Well, now you're done with Iowa. Did you leave there right away?
I did. I wanted to continue to play football, and so I was looking at other opportunities after college, as there's different type of leagues, minor leagues. I had the opportunity to play in the National All-Star Game my senior year there. However, it was there where I quickly realized that that was the end of my career because these other students, these players were just much, much faster. And I realized that I was at a point where I needed to get focused on a career
an alternate career.
Yes. And so that is when I moved back to the Valley and started looking for a job, really. I didn't have much experience other than work study, quite a bit of work study that I had at the university. And being that I focused international trade, I wanted to work in that industry. And since I didn't have much experience, that was a challenge. That was the feedback I received after a couple of interviews. So then I actually applied through a temporary staffing agency to work at the time Southwesterville Mobile Systems in Harlingen off of Stewart Road. Over the years, it's now AT&T. So it was a temporary job for 6 months. And it was to knock on doors and sell cell phones, the bag phones, those brick phones.
With a battery pack.
Yes. And understanding that, hey, you get paid on commission, it was an opportunity for me to really show that I could get the job done. So 6 months in, they actually turned me into a permanent employee and was there 20 years.
That's amazing that you were there so long, and it was so wonderful a time for you to be able to do that. And sometimes you start out with, like in your case, a small temporary job, and if you shine really brightly, those are the ones that get picked up in a permanent way. And so from the door-to-door, how do you end up getting regional manager? I think for external affairs was your title, and then for a time you were also a lobbyist for AT&T. I mean, that's quite a climb, a steep climb, very successful one for you to have made, given where you start out.
Yes, and that's attributed to really mentors. I had some great mentors within the organization. I was not afraid of saying, I don't even know how to use this phone. How do you expect me to sell it? So I, they taught you how to use a phone. I had never used a wireless phone prior to working, and there I am selling them. And understanding that, one is working hard to keep your job. I think that's what helped me, what I learned while in college, that, you got to earn your keep. And if you want to succeed, you've got to be able to welcome challenges. So I was able to do that and always asked for direction or always offered direction when we had new employees. And that provided me an opportunity to have one of my mentors offer me a promotion within the company after a couple of years and meeting exceeding quotas, actually. Then I was relocated to Laredo. I'd never been to Laredo. And I was asked, would you like to lead a team of employees at our wireless stores, which was retail stores? And so raised my hand and said yes. I was always the person that I would say, what's next? I'm ready to move, to relocate. So I relocated several times. So I spent some years in Laredo managing our wireless stores. It was interesting. It's working in Laredo and managing about 5 different stores, and each one having their employees. I think I was right about 25, 26 when I moved to Laredo. And being that I moved to Iowa, Laredo being 2.5 hours away, it's not bad at all.
No, and being a border town,
yes,
also like we are here in the Valley. But that's a very, very impressive and quick climb in the system.
Yes, and it was after, throughout my years there, another mentor within the company asked if I wanted to work in the external affairs arena. I remember being asked, would you like to be a lobbyist? And at the time, I was not fully aware of the term. And knowing her role, it was along the lines of, it was some extreme marketing efforts on behalf of the company. That's what I thought it was. So I said yes, not fully being aware of.
Sure, I can do that.
Yes. So that provided an opportunity for me to learn the process, the legislative process. And it's about relationships. It's about cultivating those relationships and always ensuring that whomever you are working with today, although it may be for a short period of time, you may end up working with that person for additional projects 15, 20 years from now. So over the years, I learned that one has to maintain a relationship that's professional and not lose someone's trust. One of the quick things I learned also was when you speak with someone in a conversation in the lobby world, per se, governmental, it stays, it's shared within and not to be spread out. That can get you in trouble because now you are not trustworthy. Yeah.
So you learned a great many skills then about developing relationships, building them, maintaining them, and then using them to kind of catapult yourself to the next job that was available. And so you did that very, very well along the way, and you did that for many, many years. At some point, you decided to come back to the Valley. How did you make that decision? Did you make it alone or with someone else?
It was a very hard decision. Working for a company, a great company like AT&T, to say that you're stepping away after 20 years, it was extremely hard. I was the person that always raised my hand and saying, I can always move. I'm mobile. Well, I did that up till the age of 35, 36, and then got married at the age of 38. Even at that, with my wife, we were both in agreement that we were mobile. So then we had our first child while living in the Valley. Even at that point, we're mobile. So then we had just built our home in Pharr, actually, 6 months in. Then my wife picked custom, everything that you want in a home,
sure,
or being our first home together, and then we lived in it only for 6 months.
Oh my.
So that's when AT&T said, "Hey, would you like to relocate to San Antonio?" Although close by, it was interesting because we had to weigh our options. Do we stay and look for something else? Do we move within AT&T? So we agreed. My wife's a counselor, so she was able to a certain extent, adjust well with relocating. However, having the only grandchildren and my elderly parents visiting us frequently, it became a challenge trying to ensure that we were focused in the fundamentals of the family.
And was she also from the Valley?
She is also from the
So
Valley.
her family was here too.
Her family was here.
So moving away to San Antonio was a big decision.
It was. And while there, we really appreciated San Antonio. We really appreciated
Good place.
AT&T.
Yeah.
We really did. The challenge was that we're both so committed to the task we have at hand that it was going to be difficult to do that while in San Antonio, families in the Valley, and the opportunities that we also saw in the Rio Grande Valley. That is what led us to decide to come back. We actually, on several occasions, worked on the T-graph, put the cons on one side, the pros on each side, and it was difficult up to the last minute. However, we both knew that we wanted to be back in our communities and be able to be close to family. It was not something related to any type of responsibilities or employment, but rather we just felt that we were in a stage of our lives where we wanted to slow down. At the time, our daughter was 2.5, my son was right about 1 year old, and we felt that we needed to be around them, or else I would have had to be gone a lot.
And that's very interesting because your priorities shift, of course, the moment you get married, one, and then the moment you all have babies, again, it shifts. And it realigns those things in your life that seemed so obvious before and easy to prioritize.
Yes, and something that we looked at a lot was employment in the Rio Grande Valley, opportunities, what is out there, and that was a driving factor of what we could see, in the sense of I found myself working with the company for 20 years, being truly committed, not really looking out elsewhere. And when you do, for some, it may be easier to look and feel that it's something you can accomplish by leaving. For me, it was not that easy. I was truly committed, but speaking to some of the leadership throughout the Rio Grande Valley in economic development and other sectors, you realize that the opportunities are there.
So now fast forward a little bit. You go away. You've been to Iowa. You've been to Laredo. Now you were in San Antonio. And you also learn not only that you can survive in all of these other places and thrive, but you learn what the Valley doesn't have that perhaps you found elsewhere enriched your life. And you get a sense of wanting to make that happen for people in the Valley and bring that yearning back to you. So you came back to the Valley and you got a position. Did you go directly then to your role now with the Rio Grande Valley Partnership?
When I relocated back to the Rio Grande Valley, I moved to FAR. I started working as governmental relations for the city of FAR, supporting the economic development director there, as well as the International Bridge. My background while at AT&T was in governmental affairs, so that was a good fit with my role within the city of FAR. Throughout this time, I served as a board of director of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership.
That's right. That's where the connection came.
I served as a board member since 2005, representing AT&T within the organization.
And who was the CEO at the time?
The CEO at the time was Mr. Bill Summers.
Bill Summers. Everybody knew Mr. Bill.
Yes.
And when you were in Austin at the legislature, I'd be walking down the hall, and the first person I would see would be Bill Summers. And he would kind of, in a 30-second brief, tell me who not to see that day. Bad mood. Go this way. Don't go that way. And he would brief me up. He was always looking out for everyone from the Valley that was going to be there to be an advocate also.
Yes.
So you learned from him in lots of ways, but you're serving on the board. So you served on the board, and then now you became CEO. How did that happen?
It was during the year, I think 2015, after Mr. Summers passed away. There were CEOs that came in after him. Julian Alvarez was there.
Yes, of course.
He was there about 5 years. And then the Governor Abbott tapped him and appointed him to be a commissioner for Texas Workforce Commission. Right. So he relocated to Austin. So that provided the vacancy at the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. And that is when some of the board members asked if I was interested in the position. And I recall speaking with my wife and saying, here we go, working from corporate America, AT&T, to working at a municipality and now at a nonprofit organization. And it was an easy decision. It was an opportunity. It's something that I was very, very passionate about the organization. So understanding the mission of Rio Grande Valley Partnership, it was it provided me an opportunity.
So tell us about the mission of your partnership.
So the organization, it's the Rio Grande Valley Partnership. It's located out of Weslaco. And the goal there is to work along with community business-minded individuals, board of directors, where our goal is to drive collaboration across the 4-county region. It is membership.
Not an easy task.
It is not an easy task.
Yes.
Being that we have many sectors that need attention because of growth, because of opportunities, and because of challenges, it provides an opportunity for us to drive unity, take on challenging issues when it comes to transportation, the needs for an educated workforce, healthcare, and we're not with healthcare. There's a lot of information that can be shared when it comes to healthcare, and it's not about just the access, but also what does it mean for us and the economic impact it provides to us.
And isn't it true, Sergio, that when you are away from the valley, people just consider us all one place? They don't say, are you from Brownsville or are you from McAllen? Are you from Edinburgh? They kind of think of you from the valley.
Yes, and you hear that on through different conversations. Not only do you hear it through your legislators, from your leadership on the government side, but you also hear from corporate America. While working with AT&T, I also worked with my colleagues at AEP, other utility companies, also Time Warner, and we'd get together and we'd talk about it as a region. We talk about it. How's the valley doing? What are y'all doing over there? What's next over there? What do you offer? What products do you offer? So it was along the conversations of referring to it as a region.
And so while they don't differentiate, often we do. We differentiate between Lower Valley, Middle Valley, Upper Valley, or this city specifically and that city specifically. And then we often are drawn to competition against each other. All pretty negative kind of environments to be in, especially when we are dealing with very few resources to apply to great needs. So your work's very noble, and I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. I'm so glad the partnership exists, because the whole idea of changing the structure of higher education was to make sure that we started to think holistically as one university for the Valley, all fighting for the same opportunities for students. Tell me, of all the things that you're doing at the partnership, which are the ones that make you most hopeful?
While working at the FAR EDC, I learned to appreciate that each individual community has to have its goal of how to excel for its own residents. Not only do the elected officials of each community have to meet their goals to be either reelected or to meet the demands of the community, that is a component that's there. It's real. It's a responsibility.
Absolutely.
So while working at for example, in my case, EDC, I had to ensure that as much as I could produce was for my EDC, was for my board of directors, was for my community. However, there were many different opportunities, such as supporting the ports of entry is one, supporting the Port of Brownsville, and advocating on behalf of policies that impact our region. Or those are the key points where I think we as a region have the opportunity to collaborate.
So the partnership's job in some ways is to make sure that we identify common needs and perhaps common solutions to some of the most serious issues that we have to face together. And are you hopeful that we'll be learning to do that better and more?
Sure are. We collaborate with other regional organizations as well. In fact, we just got back from our trip to D.C. It was our second year. We started last year. We had about 45 individuals from all walks of life advocating for the Rio Grande Valley while in D.C. We are gearing to all chambers throughout the valley. We've already met 4 to 5 times as we plan for our legislative agenda for 2019. So the collaboration is there. So then the conversations are in place.
Do you see us as having made progress in thinking collaboratively? Are we going forward with that in a strong way?
We are, and although some folks may not be fully aware of the conversations, they might not be in the meetings, they're happening. There's already conversations amongst different sectors that might not be reported through multiple channels out in the media. However, I am fully aware of several conversations that are of importance where we have our local elected officials meeting, our business community individuals meeting as well. So, yes.
That's wonderful. So let me just now ask you one last question, and that has to do, it's been wonderful to have you today, by the way. It's so good that to learn of the path, because none of our paths are straight. They're all kind of crooked, and to share that is really important for students to learn, to all of us to learn about. And also to know that you went from the private sector and now are in a public environment, and that it seems to be something that you've enjoyed and that you're continuing to contribute to all of us in a very positive way. But now pretend you have some students right here in front of you, and there's 30 students, and they're listening, and they want some consejos. They want some advice from Sergio Contreras. They want to know, would you do this again like this? Is there something that I should remember from your own journey that'll make a difference in my life?
There will be some challenges, and we learn from those. That is what makes us whom we are. That is what's made great leaders whom they are. That is what makes our parents whom they are. And it's always important to welcome challenges. And then also it's okay to embrace one's own success and celebrate them with a partner, with a family. We're in a culture that at times we might be humble on celebrating those, but it's okay to understand that, hey, if you're good, you're good. Celebrate them, spike the ball. And then I think I will say this, that I do it till this day, is always have mentors. Identify someone whom you can feel comfortable in asking for direction. Always also be a mentor to others.
I think that's very, very important. Those of us who have had the benefit of having important mentors in our life want to do the same thing for others. So for people not to be hesitant to ask for help along the way, people are very willing to give it. Sergio, it is wonderful to know you and to know you better now as a result of you telling us your story and that of your family. Thank you for making the decision to represent all of us in the Rio Grande Valley so well, so admirably, so professionally. Te lo agradecemos de todo corazón.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia, and thank you for your leadership on all that you've done. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for this. It provides us an opportunity to learn of others as well.
Thank you so much. Hasta pronto. Thank you for tuning in to Next Generation, a program highlighting the next generation of leaders in the Rio Grande Valley and beyond.